Hey, how's it going out there? Today I brought out my pre-64 Winchester Model 94. What I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to refinish the stock on it. When I purchased this gun, someone looks like it came from the 70s or something. They decorated it with these little I don't even know what they are. But my plans are to I'll pull it apart, pop these things out. We'll see how deep the holes are in them, and I'll fill the holes in, sand it down, and we'll see what that looks like. If the places I did fill in does kind of stick out, I can always just replace the stock, but I thought I'd start with just refinishing it. So let's get started here. And as I pull apart, what I'm going to do is put the screws back to where I got them from, just to be able to keep track so I don't lose them. And I'll end up just sliding that one forward. Alright, so we've got it all taken apart. Go ahead and put these things, put the hard parts aside. Alright, so here's what we're working with. So like I was saying before, what I'm going to do is I'll pop these guys out, and even where they had made a hole here for my sling, I think I'm going to fill that in. I'm not too big on that one. And these screws here that I'm putting back in, I'll definitely be using those when I go to put my clear coat on it. I'll use those to hang it to dry. It comes in really handy. So let's see how easy these will pop out. Looks like they don't want to pop out too easily. There we go. So there's the back of it. That's what it is. It's definitely going to be a nice little hole to fill in. We'll see what it looks like. So if you're not into doing any kind of woodwork or just experimenting, you can go ahead and just purchase another stock, which is, like I was saying before, if this ends up not looking too great, that's what I'll end up doing. But rather than spend $100, I'd rather take some time and see if I can get it out on my own. Not only that, I do enjoy working with wood, so that's a plus on my part anyways too. I like these things. So. Seems like these ones here are coming out a lot easier. Probably shouldn't say anything because then they'll start coming out hard. Why anyone would do this, I have no idea. This is an older gun, so maybe this was the thing to do back in their time. Alright, so everything's all popped out. What I'm going to do now is sand them both down and fill them in. I start out with an 80 grit sandpaper and go from there. If it starts coming off pretty easily, I'll just go to the 100. Alright, that's coming off pretty easy. So like I was saying, I was going to start with the 80. Got pretty much everything off of there. So after I sand this part of it here with the 80, I'll just jump to the 120 and see how that comes out. Since the sander's pretty flat, there's a lot of round on this. What I'm going to do now is I'll just hit it by hand a little bit here before I hit it with the 120. Another thing you can do to match the filler as close to the wood you're putting it inside. If you don't have any filler, you can always just use the sawdust. That always, works pretty good too. So. For that, what you'll end up doing is making a pile of your sawdust, taking a little bit of the wood glue, you'll mix it in there. Kind of wrap it up, mix the two together, and then just put it off on there. Done that a few times. I haven't gone that way with such big holes though. Alright, so that's ready to be hit with the next grade, the 120 sandpaper. We'll work on this one. Alright, now I'm going to hit it with the 80. Alright, now I'm going to hit it with the 120 grit. Alright, so both have been sanded now with 80 grit and then 120 grit, and the last thing I want to hit them with is steel wool. And I use the finest steel wool that I could ever find, which is it's got the 4 zeros on the bottom of it if you're not familiar with it. I've never had any trouble with the steel wool, as long as you make sure and wipe everything down nice and get everything out of there before you put the clear coat on there. You won't have any issues with it. So putting this on there, it just really makes it really fine. So we'll end up going over it again with the steel wool, but just for right now, before like I said, before I fill in those holes. Alright, now I'll wipe it down and start filling the holes in. Alright, so now I'm going to wipe them down, and for that I got myself a damp rag here. If you're not too familiar with refinishing, if you weren't going to put any kind of stain to whatever it is you're refinishing, if you wipe, when you end up wiping it down with a wet cloth, and if you're just going to put that clear coat on it, that's what it's going to look like there. See that? So that'll be the finish if I end up not, which I don't think I am going to use any kind of stain to it, but that's what it'll look like. Very close to it. And you want to make sure and get inside those holes because there's sawdust in there. It's kind of light though for a walnut, huh? To see. You can see I didn't get really good inside here. I got as well as I could. I probably could have took more time and got in there, but the bracket's going to be covering it, so I'm not worried about it. Okay, there we go. So now start filling those holes. And the filler I'm going to use to fill the holes, it's called Pro Bond, and it's a walnut filling. So go ahead and fill them up. And And since this is so much of a filling, this is going to take longer to dry. And I'm just using a thin piece of cardboard here for my straight edge. Or maybe, should I say, for my spatula. And when you're filling a hole, the more you take off of there, the less you have to sand off. So if you've never used this this type of filler before, it works really good. I'm kind of old school. I'd never used anything like it, but that's all they carried at the Home Depot when I was looking for a filler. So. And this stuff dries pretty quick too. It's another thing I liked about it. Okay, so now that those are filled in, I gotta wait for them to dry, sand them, and then I'll probably end up filling them again because they were so deep. As the filler dries, it kind of takes it in with it, so it's gonna kind of sink in with it. So I'm gonna have to come back and fill it and so on. But I am gonna fill this hole here that they had for the sling. So to fill that the right way, because it's so deep of a hole, like I was talking about before, I'll end up taking some sawdust or maybe some little sticks and whatnot to put it in there to build it up for me, and then I'll put the filler on top. So I'm out here in my barn. I got some hay out here, so hay. I'm gonna take some hay and put it in there. And they need to be about this long. Alright, so I got some hay. Put that in there. Alright, so all my holes are filled. So what I'll do is I'll let this dry overnight, and I'll come back tomorrow and give it a sand and see what more needs to be done to them.